Hey guys, welcome back. It's let's see, January 23rd, and we are back in the garage. As you guys saw, we got the heater fired up. Thanks a lot, Craig. You guys can still see my breath, but I'm in a t-shirt, so it's actually pretty comfortable in here. I'd have to say it's probably in the, I don't know, mid 40s, but I turned the heater on just long enough to take the chill out of the air, and have to turn it off just while I'm filming because you can't hear through anything with the camera on and the heater on. But real quick, I want to touch base on the parts that Richard from Old Farm Junk 101 sent over. Got a few things cleaned up tonight at Rudy's after I finished another magneto for him. Knocked out another F4 magneto for the F-Series Farmalls and some of the other earlier 30s Farmall tractors, McCormick Deering tractors. But I'll show you what we're working with here. So this is the original clutch fork cross shaft that goes across the clutch housing and carries the actual fork assembly for the clutch fork. And this is the one that Richard sent us. As you can see, it's got no wear at all compared to ours, the original. There's a very pronounced wear spot here that you can see. So we're going to go ahead and use this shaft that Richard sent. This is the brake pedal cross shaft. It carries the brake pedals and the clutch pedal, and they cleaned up really well. There's a little bit of wear on the interior brake pedal side. The exterior one has a even less wear, but compared to the one that we're replacing, it's quite a bit better. So the only thing that I did notice about the one that Richard sent out is it does not have this milling for the PTO shaft to clear. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see that, but I've already marked out kind of the area that needs to be milled out, and you can see where the original PTO shaft was rubbing. So I'm going to just take a grinder and kind of grind this out. It's not making contact with anything. It's not really for any structural support. So that's kind of my plan with that. I'll just make this one work just using a grinder and taking, I'll probably take and make a bunch of relief cuts vertically and then go from there. And the way that I'm going to do it is there's a cotter pin hole on each side here. So I'm going to take a pin and lock both of these together. That way I can match the contour of the original. So moving on from there, we've got the replacement belt pulley drive shaft from Richard, and everything looks good on the shaft. The only thing that I'm going to do is, this is the original here, but the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press off this gear and reuse the original, just because, well, for two reasons. The first reason is this gear is well matched and worn into the gear which is in the bottom of this box here, this bevel gear here. So the original two gears will be a match set, and we'll probably get less noise that way versus going to this gear, which will be worn to a different set of gears. Also, the gear here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got quite a bit of pitting on the teeth. So that's just a good reason to switch them out. Not that I'm going to be doing a lot of belt pulley work with this, but we might be belting it up to the occasional sawmill or a shingle mill, what have you. But anyways, the reason we're making this video is because we're going to tear apart the hydraulic pump from the H. Now I've already removed the outlet pipes, so the two shorter pipes go on to the side with the dual outlets, and then the long outlet pipe goes to the opposite side, so it crosses over above the pump and comes out it'd be the distributor side of the tractor. So, but basically what we're going to do with this pump is replace the seal, the pump to reservoir seal, and then we're going to replace the gasket, and then we're going to replace the seal behind the drive for the pump. So I've already loosened all these bolts up. Let me get my camera mounted onto my chest mount, and we'll take it apart. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and lift this section out. The best way to do this, so this area here, this is where your actuating lever goes, and you kind of have to lift it up and twist it and turn it out to get the pump assembly out. So it's kind of a trick to get it out of here. There we go. Oh, look at that. There's even oil in it. So we're going to have to get rid of that. We'll just go ahead and leave that sit right where it's at. Flip the pump over so you guys can see the backside. And essentially, this is... So this is your pressure relief here. Okay, so when you pull back on the rod, it allows your pressure relief to open up, and then the pump actuates and sends fluid out to the ports. When you press this down, it closes that, or closes, let me think here, opens the valve to allow fluid to transfer back in to the reservoir, or drain back into the reservoir. This is your pickup here. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that when you pull back, this allows the pump to pressurize, basically push fluid out the ports and into the hydraulic cylinders. When you push it forward and down, that is in the... Okay, so here's your plunger system inside here. So you push it forward, it pulls the plunger back, and then allows the fluid to escape and refill the reservoir. All by gravity. So with that forward, it raises. So this opens the valve and allows pressure to build through the pump, thereby raising the hydraulic cylinders. So what we're going to do is, well, a lot of this gasket, the old gasket, has to be removed before we install the new one, obviously. But that's the least of our worries at this point in time. I'm not going to take the pump itself apart because I know this pump works. It came out of a working tractor, and I know that it works. And the fact that it has fluid in it is even a better indicator. But I picked it up some years back, actually, when I went to Alabama to when I went to Alabama to pick up that Farmall Cub for a friend of mine in the club, I stopped in Illinois and picked this up on the way back. So, but basically, in order to remove this seal, we have to remove this drive cog. And in order to do that, we have to take a piece of steel. Actually, they call for brass, but I've used steel in the past with good luck. And we insert it in the pickup hole, and there's two gears that mesh together. And you basically lock those gears together with that piece of steel. And then you just use a brass drift and a hammer and loosen the drive cog. So hopefully we don't have the same issue that we had with the drive cog on the transmission end. But let me find a piece of steel that we can stick down in there. I think I've got one laying here. So and then we'll get to work on getting that drive cog off. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna turn off the camera. Guess I could take my glove off. Okay, I just took a piece of flat stock. It's probably 1 inch wide flat stock, I would guess. 3/16 thick. I locked it in the gears there. Then I just took my large brass punch and a large dead blow hammer and a couple knocks on this corner. Then I turned it. A couple knocks on the other corner, and it turns right out. So that's how we remove the coupler drive. I wish the transmission was that easy. And then we can just pry this seal out, replace the seal, and yeah, then clean everything up and it can go back together. So I'll get this seal out. I'll get a bucket down so we can drain the fluid. And then on the M belly pump, if you guys can see way inside here, let me grab a flashlight. So this lever here is what engages the pump from the pull handle. And on the M, there was a seal behind this carrier. So I'm going to check to see if there's a seal behind here. The parts list that I looked up did not list one. And the one that I ordered for the M, I don't know if you guys remember a while back when I did the M belly pump reseal, but the one that it listed was not the correct one. They had a small rubber seal in there, and it was not a pressed in seal. So I have a feeling this one's going to be the same way, but let me get a bucket down. We'll dump the fluid out. We'll pull this seal out, and then we'll take the actuating lever apart and see what we got for a seal inside there. There should be some type of seal, but we'll know when we get it apart. So stay tuned. Okay, we've got the actuating lever assembly, or I should say the shaft and pin out, and there is no seal behind that area. So this is what we are looking at here. So this is the portion that engages with the actual lever that sticks out the side of the clutch housing. This piece slips inside the housing like so, and when it's inside there, it slips into the engagement lever, which locks in. Well, the pump is upside down, but let me flip this over quick. We did get the seal out already as well, so I just used my seal puller and hooked it, and it came right out. So if we flip this over, it's not light. If we flip this over and look, this slotted area here, right there, is where this portion of this engagement lever slips inside of. So this comes in from the side of the housing into the lever. This lever is engaged in that slot inside the pump, and when you pull back on the hydraulic lever, it rotates the action forward. When you push it forward to release the pressure, it rotates that pin and pulls it backwards. So when I was describing it before, it's actually opposite. So when you pull back on the lever, it kicks the actuating lever inside the pump forward. When you push on the lever to release the hydraulic pressure, it pulls the actuating lever backward inside the pump area. So, and in order to remove this piece, it's just one bolt, but there is a heavy washer that acts as your key in the shaft, if you guys can see that. So it locks this into place when you slide everything together, just like so. Then your bolt goes through, just like that, and that's how your assembly works for actuating the pump. Now there's a lot more to this pump that I'm not going to cover, just because I know this pump works, as I mentioned before. But essentially, it's made up of springs and check valves. There's not a whole lot to these pumps. There's a spring inside here, a check valve, and then I believe there's a few more behind here that go, horizontally. But I'm not going to tear into that simply because we don't have to. And most pumps, you'll find that you don't have to tear into them. It's just, most of the time, it's a reseal and regasket and you're good to go. The only thing that I may consider doing is replacing the gasket, if there is one. I'm not even sure if there is one. This is a chunk of old gasket from the reservoir. I think there's a gasket between here. So this is your valve body here, or your remote body. So I'm just trying to look here. I don't know where the bolts are that hold everything together, and I'm afraid to take all of this apart just because I don't know anything about it. For sakes of learning, I guess we could, but okay, so this is how the remote portion comes off. There's a bolt hidden behind here. There's another bolt here. And there is a third bolt at the bottom. And that is it. So it's held on by 3 bolts. But if we're going to go that far, there's only 4 more that hold this entire pump assembly onto the backing plate. Oh boy. What am I getting myself into here? Let me do some thinking and I'll get right back with you. Okay guys, I'm doing this purely for educational purposes only. I'm going to attempt to take this thing apart, hopefully being able to get it back together. So I've already gotten my cotter pins set to pull out. The first one I'm going to remove is this bottom pin here, and that is what controls the valve in and out. I think it's the valve. So I pull the pin. There's a washer on the left side. Grab a punch, drive that through, pull this pin, out. Remove this cotter pin on the left side here, just below the actuating slot. And then I'll remove this cotter pin up top. And I'm trying to keep everything organized as much as I can. So we'll drive this pin out. And I know this top pin holds this lever in place, and behind here there's a spring. So you got to be kind of careful. So you don't lose that spring, which is here. So here's the lever, cotter pin, we'll put it back together with the lever and the spring. Now, let's see here. So behind here, if you can see that, there's two valves, and that's operated by this trip lever here. But the difficult part is going to be this heavy spring. So I'm going to drive this pin out, and I'm probably going to regret this. As far as putting it back together goes. But there is this lever. Goes back in here. The spring goes here. And then the cotter pin goes on here. Just like that. Once again, trying to keep everything somewhat organized here. So these plungers are stuck there. I think from this point it's time to remove all these bolts and see what's behind there. I know there's obviously gears, but I don't know exactly what's in there. So let's get our wrenches and go to work. Okay guys, well, let's see what happens here. I'm going to take this, I believe this is the check valve or the relief valve. There's something inside here. Okay, there's our check ball, and I'm guessing there's also a spring in here. Oh yeah, but let's go ahead and remove all the bolts. Now I'm assuming these are all the same length except for these two top ones. So we'll try to keep those in the orientation that they go in. And whoop, careful. Well, I guess we're getting a new gasket for that, aren't we? Again, this is purely a learning experience for me. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to keep everything I can together. Let's look down inside here. Oh no, there is no spring inside here. Okay, I see. The spring is inside here. So this is your plunger and your check ball. And a lot of times, from what I understand, this is typically what gets wore out is this ball and this spring inside the plunger. So we'll keep that together and make sure we don't lose it. I'm not sure why this metal bracket isn't coming off. Just got to give it a little bit of a whack. Okay. Let's see. I can feel it moving, but it is not separating. And I know a lot of guys are probably after me because I'm using a dead blow hammer, but I'm doing so at a, well, I can see it's starting to separate here. At a fairly gingerly pace. Oh, okay, that is not what I wanted to happen. Well, it's a good thing for schematics. So, there's a couple of springs that flew out, a couple of balls. That's less than desirable, but I'm thinking, okay, so these are plungers. This is a gear. This is another ball. Here's the pump body, or I should say there's another gear and bushing, 2 bushings that go inside this gear, and that is it. So the pump has officially been disassembled. I hope you guys are happy. I don't know why I did this, but at least now we can clean everything out. And the only thing, okay, let me, here we go. Okay, now it's officially been disassembled. So there's our hydraulic pump. This is the drive gear. I know that because the drive cog threads onto the back side. Okay. And everything looks good. So really, all we need to get is the remote gasket, and we already got a seal, so we don't need a seal. There we go. That is how we disassemble the hydraulic pump. And these check balls look good. The spring's got some crud in them, but they feel good. I mean, I don't know what weight the springs are supposed to be. That one feels okay. It's a little malformed though. I might see if I can get new springs at least for that. And this spring looks okay. Don't want to lose that check ball for this. Everything looks okay. So I think we're just going to clean everything up. And I suppose we could check the bushings here to see what we got for wear. Oh, that gear's good and tight. Suppose we could remove the pump body. Oh yeah, there's no play in that at all. Good, perfect. This surface is not wore from the gears. It's not scored at all. That's good. This surface, same thing. Can't feel any wear. Well, that's pretty awesome. So we disassembled the hydraulic pump, and hopefully we can remember how it goes back together. So let me get my gloves off and I'll give you guys a send-off here. Okay, well, we tore apart the hydraulic pump, which was, I mean, completely tore it apart, which was not my intention, but I did so purely for educational purposes, for me and for you guys, because there are 0 videos out there on how to disassemble the belly pump for the Farmall letter series tractors, the H and the M. So now we know how to do it. There's a lot of small pieces here, but it really isn't too bad, just like everything else. I did take pictures of my cell phone before I even pulled any of those shafts or cotter pins out. So now we should know how it goes back together. Plus, we have the video to play back if we get confused, on top of the diagrams. So yeah, that's I'm actually pretty happy we did that, just for learning purposes. So Squatch and everybody else, eat your heart out, because we did something that nobody else has done on video. But that's all I've got for today. I'm gonna let this crud drain out of the reservoir here, put my tools away, and I'm going inside. It's like 11 o'clock at night, so I want to go inside and relax. But also, Craig, thanks a lot. The heater worked great. It's still roughly the same temperature in here, and I only ran that thing for probably 15 minutes before I came out here. So big thanks to Craig, and we're going to get a lot of use out of that. So thanks for watching thanks for watching, and thanks for wrenching with me. Stay tuned. More cleaning to do now.